We are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome, authors. Whether you're just starting out or whether you've been around the block a few times writing your books, you guys, we are so lucky because we've got Alessandra Torre here with us today.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Jim, for having me.
I've been looking forward to this. I'm so glad that you came back. It's been a year, but it feels like it's been longer than that. For those of you who may not be familiar with Alessandra, she is a multiple New York Times best-selling author with more than 2 million books sold. That's just amazing. And gosh, you've got communities going on. You've got a conference that you've built. You have like a coaching business too. You have a lot of things that are happening. And when we kind of connected the dots here to set up this conversation, you're like, oh, I can talk about 3 things that authors need to focus on right now. So I'm like, okay, that sounds great. But do you mind if we kind of start by setting a little foundational knowledge for people who may not be that familiar with you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I go? Okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So if you aren't familiar with me, my name is Alessandra. I also write under A.R. Torre. So I have 2 pen names. Alessandra is my romance side of things, and A.R. is my domestic suspense and psychological thriller side of things. I live in Key West, Florida. And as Jim said, I started in self-publishing in 2012. So back in the olden times, and it really, the industry has changed and will continue to change so much. So, but I started in 2012, and at that time there were very few resources for authors. I mean, there was traditional conferences, and I went to my first conference in 2013, but we did not have the wealth of information that we have nowadays. Available. So I really was kind of wandering, lost, and blind for my first few years. And a lot of my decisions were kind of made like I would just kind of plow forward in one direction until I hit like a wall, and then I would turn and I would go in a different direction. So for the first 6 or 7 years, my career was kind of all over the place. But successful, but definitely like if you look at my books, I kind of hopped all over the place. And then I really started getting smart, like with my business and marketing, um, 6 years in. And I was writing 4 books a year. And now I write 1 book a year. I make just as much writing 1 book a year as I did when I was making 4. And I am hybrid. So I have signed traditional publishing deals along the way. I've still also continued to self-publish. So I do both. But I always said I found my greatest success with self-publishing. I think honestly now closer, I've probably made more, but that's because I'm a bigger name and a bigger brand now that I do have some traditional books with Thomas and Mercer, which is an Amazon imprint.
So. Is it true that you started because your husband dared you to write a novel?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and yes, yeah, you absolutely read that. Yeah, I was always a reader. I'd never thought about being a writer. I had never studied writing. I mean, I think I took a creative writing class in college that didn't really do any. I mean, it wasn't like my passion at the time, but I loved to read. I was a reader. I read everything there was. You know, as long as it was fiction, I would read it. As long as it wasn't historical fiction, I would read it. And it wasn't until but I was always a really critical reader, you know, and I would always be like, oh, I wish the story had gone this way. I wish it had done this, or, you know, or I would figure out the twist really early. And so I was kind of picking apart books one day, which I would do a lot. And it was kind of, my husband was like, if you think you could do so much better, you should write a book, you know? And I was in between jobs at the time. I had a 6-month non-compete. So I couldn't, you know, I was kind of just trying to kill time over the summer. And I was like, you know, I think I will. And right then I had also learned about self-publishing, which was like, I would have never had the confidence to go the traditional publishing route. Like I just, you know, I thought, oh, I could write this book. If it's horrible, nobody would ever know. And I can put it out there. And, you know, if it flops, like whatever, I'll just
Well, how did you even become aware of self-publishing at that time when you were just getting started?
My mom was a professor, and she had been approached by a guy who had written a few books. They hadn't done well, but self-published them. and he was wanting someone to add like a romance like subplot. So he approached my mom to see if she would like co-write it with him and kind of improve it. And so she was telling me about the process. She was like, and he's just like publishing it himself, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that was the first I'd ever heard of it. So I went home and Googled, and then I was like, oh, this looks really easy, you know? But I didn't know anything. I remember somebody said D to D. I didn't know what that meant, you know? So I Googled D to D. Somebody said Goodreads. I didn't have a Goodreads account. That was one of my first earliest reviews, was like, this reader isn't even on Goodreads. And I was like, what's Goodreads? That afternoon, you know, I went and got a Goodreads account. I think that was the same reader that's like, this is definitely a guy writing as a girl. So, but they connected me to Goodreads. So thank you to that reader. But yeah.
Well, that's good feedback, because now, I mean, well, for one thing, 2012 wasn't that long ago, considering all the success, and what now you're over 35 novels published now.
Yeah.
So that's not that long ago.
I know it's flown, but the industry has changed so much. Like when I started, we sometimes refer it to the gold rush, because you really, I mean, someone could put out a book and you would earn an amount of money. You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't, you know, but also nobody was putting money into production like they do nowadays, you know? So
for sure,
it was a lot easier to get a return on investment, because you just weren't spending as much. I say that, and I think there were people that were paying, you know, they were paying these vanity presses or these small presses to publish their book, and they were paying $10,000 or $5,000 to do it. But in terms of self-publishing, I mean, my first self-published book, I made my own cover. I didn't have an editor. I didn't have a formatter. I just uploaded I wrote it in Notepad, and I just, you know, uploaded that doc to the platforms, and, you know, went along my merry way. So
the rest is history.
Yeah. Thank goodness it was successful. So yeah.
Well, in the early days, circa like 2008 to 2010, maybe even a little into 2011, I remember when I joined Smashwords, it was still in that phase of like intoxication, where authors were so excited. They're like, what? You mean I could just upload a manuscript and just see what happens? So that's what they were doing. They were just uploading manuscripts. They weren't edited sometimes, and the cover art was, let's just say, a little sketch. But some of those books were selling really, really well. And then once word got out, then I think that's when the indie community really started to step up their game from 2011 and beyond, and realizing, hey, we have to be just as professional, if not better, than what's coming out of traditional publishing houses. And the result, you can see it now. There's with all of the authors out there who are just killing it and just being more creative. And now traditional houses are starting to tap into different indie communities. I love it.
Well, like you said, I mean, I also think there was like a rawness to the writing, which I think has maybe been lost a little bit. But there's times where I'll read a book, an indie published book from 2013, 2014. I'm like, gosh, I just remember when books, I don't know, like, I don't know how to describe it, but there was just this like brave, like, maybe it was because none of us knew what we were doing, and so we weren't writing to market, and we weren't whatever.
There were no rules.
There's no rules, and there's just, you know. And I remember the giddiness I felt as a reader, like when I got my first Kindle, and I was like, I just got this book for 99 cents. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, or free. I mean, you know, or free, and it was like, oh my god. So and, you know, I was just excited to have something to read. I wasn't that like picky that it had to be. But nowadays, it's funny. I was having lunch or dinner with a group of girls, and one of the ladies, you know, it was mentioned that I was an author. A lot of people didn't realize I was an author at the table. And my friend was like, and she's an Amazon bestseller. And I was like, and another girl goes, well, she's a New York Times bestseller, you know, like she was, and the other girl goes, oh, I don't know the difference or whatever. And then this third girl goes, anyone can put their book on Amazon, like self-published authors on Amazon. And I wanted to, like, she didn't realize she was insulting me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be like, do you know how many books probably you're reading that are self-published that you don't know? Like, you can't tell the difference when you go to Apple Books or Nook or wherever else, or Barnes & Noble, and you get a paperback, there's a high likelihood that that popular paperback is self-published. And you don't know, like, you can't tell because our standards are as high and we're using the same designers, and, you know, we're all using the same distributor. Like, so, you
in
know,
some cases, the same editors too.
Yeah, the same editors, like, you know, but it was just like, she had no idea that she was offending me. And I was like, I'm not even going to get into it right here. But
like, wait a minute.
Yeah. but the way she said self-published, and I remember that stigma when I started out, but I really thought that that stigma was gone. Like, I felt like, it's just funny. Like, I hadn't been out in the wild with like at a non-book club event with just a random reader before, I mean, in a long time. And so it was, you know, it like, I'm still steamed about it. This is 3 weeks ago.
Oh, totally. Like,
fired up about
I take it personally when the indie community is attacked, you know, and that's one of the reasons why we're being so careful with this crush of AI stuff that's hitting not just us, but our retail partners as well, because we're worried that that's going to impact the reputation that the indies have built over these last almost 20 years now. And we can't let that happen.
Yeah.
Because you and all the other authors out there have worked too hard to eliminate that stigma. So we're not going to go backwards.
I love it. I love it. And I really honestly believe like the market's going to correct itself, or, you know what I mean? Like,
it will. I agree.
Things will figure themselves out.
Okay. One thing I really want to ask you is that, you know, given everything that you have going on with your publishing business, what drives you to continue to help up and coming authors year in and year out with everything else that's going on in your life?
Well, part of it, it's twofold. One, when I started out, like I said, like, there just weren't resources. Like, so I remember calling the New York Times to buy. This is when my first book blew up. And my sister was like, you have to reinvest. Like, you should be reinvesting 75% of what you make, like, to advertising or to, you know, marketing or whatever. So I didn't have anywhere to spend money. Like, I really didn't know where to spend money. And back then it was like press releases, or I called the New York Times to see if I could put in an ad. And there just wasn't like Facebook advertising at that time. I didn't discover that till like my third book. But anyways, there just wasn't the resources. And I remember thinking, and I had read a bunch of books on craft, or tried to read a bunch of books on craft, and they were just so boring to me and like intimidating. And I just remember thinking, like, if I ever figure this stuff out, like, I just want to make like a writing for dummies or marketing for dummies or publishing for dummies thing. And I would also meet a lot of people that are like, oh, I'd love to self-publish, but it's way too complicated. Like, I'm not smart enough for that. I don't have the skill set. I don't want to learn. And it's like, it's really easy. Like, it's really very easy. So I started on the educational side with like for dummies courses. Like, I had a writing, publishing, and marketing. You can still find those courses, but I wouldn't recommend buying those courses because I haven't updated them in a really long time. But that was where I started. And that was like, gosh, probably like 10 years ago. It was maybe 8 years ago. It's a while ago. And then but then it was like, okay, well, I've like maxed out everything I've learned, right? Like, I realized that I know this much, you know, but I don't know like anything about AMS ads, or I don't know, you know, I don't know audiobook promotion strategies or whatever. So I started looking at bringing more people into my courses and having them teach like a specific class. And then I was like, okay, let me get a bunch of people. We'll film it all at the same time. It'll be consistent. And before I know it, like, one thing led to another. It's like, well, I'll just invite a couple people to sit in the audience so that there's someone for them to teach to. And then it was like, okay, before we know it, it's conference, you know,
oops.
Like, right. And then we'll bring some companies in so they can ask questions. And before we know it, we're like planning lunches and blah, blah, blah. So, so that was how I got into it. And that was how InkersCon was born. Okay. But then,
we'll get to InkersCon, but continue.
Well, which launches soon, and everyone should go. But why I stay in it is one, it's kind of forced learning for me, because we have 24 presentations each year. So I have to research to find those speakers and then watch those presentations. And then the same with our workshops, everything else. So for me, it's a guaranteed way that I'm going to continue my knowledge growth, you know, because it's so easy to just put that to the side, right? Like, you have a book deadline, you have something else. So it's really hard sometimes to sit down and watch like a 1 hour class on, character development.
True.
So it for that, but it's also just like a different part of my brain. And I like the balance. Like I like writing as solitary. I like the conference atmosphere and working with authors. I like opportunities like this. Like I'm not sure our paths would have ever crossed, had it not. So it's exposed me to so many like wonderful people that normally I would just be like stuck away in my office and writing, and I wouldn't have those contacts. So I'm really grateful for that.
Well, that's very generous of you, because it takes a lot of time to go through the learning process, like you said, but event planning at that magnitude, and everybody, that the conference that we're talking about, InkersCon, it's a 10-day event. So yeah. And
to be honest, I do the fun stuff. So the team does all of the laborious stuff. So
right,
I get to do all the fun stuff. Yeah, I do the programming, and I speak to the speakers and the best-selling authors and the companies, so and the attendees. So I do, in my mind, that's the fun stuff. For some of our team, that's probably not the fun stuff, and they think the fun stuff is what they do. But yeah, but it's definitely a team effort. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure of it. All right. Shall we switch gears and talk about the 3 things that authors should focus on?
Absolutely. So I picked 3 things because there's, for most indie authors and traditionally published authors, there's so many different things that we feel like we have to learn and know about and everything else. And it can get really overwhelming. And a lot of times we end up doing a lot of things poorly versus maybe like a few things well. And so I wanted to be like, if I had a moment to sit down with my past self or a brand new author or an experienced author and just like share 3 kind of words of wisdom or things to focus on, this is what it would be. Okay. All right. I'm good at setting up the cliffhanger, right? Okay.
I love it. She didn't tell me. Well, she was going to tell me this backstage, but I'm like, no. I want to be surprised.
No, I'll wait. Okay. So the first is clarity of product. And this is a new thing that I would have added or subbed into the list in the last year, as I've learned more and more about algorithms. And by algorithms, I'm talking about retailer algorithms, social media algorithms, and SEO algorithms, and even AI algorithms, because some people are finding books through AI searches now, right? Like they're asking ChatGPT to recommend a book. So for all of those algorithms, they are all dealing with an oversaturation of product, right? Way too many results, and clarity of, or the ability to easily define a product as being a fit for a query or for an exposure point is paramount of paramount importance, right? Yes. So it's very like our days of being kind of coy or having like a book description that, is kind of mysterious and what the book is about is not going to help your book succeed at all. This clarity of product is also really important for readers, because readers do in large part to like TikTok or, things like that, have a shorter and shorter attention span, right? So their book buying process, if you look at, and a fun test, it's not just our readers, it's ourselves also. If you do a screen record of you and you say, okay, you've got like 3 minutes to find a book to purchase, right? Your budget is $10 or whatever. And you go, at least for me, I spend less than 30 seconds looking at each book before I look at the next one. And it's really interesting for you to see what it is that turns you off on a book or what caused you to do something else. But a lot of times it's fuzzy, like the book is just fuzzy. Like you're looking at it and you just aren't sure exactly what it is or what the story's about. And it doesn't give you a compelling enough hook or reason to say, oh yeah, I want to read that, right? And a lot of times that's because we are trying to be kind of like mysterious, or we have a really cool cover concept, but it's not necessarily like, this could be literary fiction. This could be young adult coming of age. Like, who knows? This could be a fantasy romance. I don't know. And it's hard because the retailer algorithms often Alessandra writes spicy romance. Back in the day, my first book, I mean, if you looked at that cover, you're like, that's a spicy romance, right? Like that isn't appropriate for this whole large group of audience, right? Nowadays, you can't have this scantily, this racy cover like you used to have. So it's really hard for people to necessarily look at a romance book and say, hey, this is a clean and wholesome, or this is, you know, a spicy dark romance. It can be really hard. But clarity of through your cover, your hooks, even your reviews, not that you can affect your reviews, but when you look at reviews, that's how they'll tell the A+ content or any type of like additional content that you provide the retailers. And then in your marketing and in your ads, like leading with hooks and being very, very clear with what the book is. When I make my TikToks have performed so much better ever since I give that TikTok like 6 clues that this is a book. I'll put book POV like in dark font and hide it somewhere in the image. I put book and I use a book emoticon or whatever, like in the description. And I put the title, I'll use thriller talk hashtags and things like that, you know. And then when I reply to comments, I try to say read or book or thriller, you know, as much as I can in those, because as much as I can bombard and give clues to the algorithms, I will. So I would say whenever you go to package your product, focus on, someone should look at this and immediately know is what type of book this is and the tropes. And, you know, when they look at the packaging.
That's excellent advice. And I love the idea of like almost like you said, setting a timer to read through your description. Like, can you get it? Can you get it within a few seconds? Because even from our standpoint, when I write press releases or blog posts, because everything has to be, has to be optimized for AI search. And I think they call it generative engine optimization, not to totally bore everybody, but it's true for all of us, because we have to write for the for natural language searches, which most people are doing now.
Even like when I'm scrolling through TikTok and I am always open for a book. Like if a book crosses my hemisphere, you know, anywhere, I'll pay attention. But even like I'll see a video that's like, here are 10 book recommendations you have to read this spring. Like if I didn't hear the word thriller, suspense, domestic suspense, serial killer, something like that, I'm not going to watch like the first 3 books to see what type of books these are. Like I'm just going to keep swiping, because I need to know like right away what it is that I'm getting. And unfortunately, that's just like a byproduct of like the shorter and shorter attention spans that we're all developing.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that was point number 1, clarity of product.
Yeah, clarity of product. And product, I mean your book, right? Okay, so and the same also, I just want to say with the look inside, like at the beginning of your story, they should get a definite feel for the vibe of your book, for the experience that they're going to get, and the genre. And, you know, they should get clues to all of that right away. Okay.
Does that also, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Does that also spill over into the author brand?
Yes, I would say that spills over to the author brand. And that the author brand is actually my second thing is it's kind of, I cheated and I kind of straddled the line. But the second thing to focus on, I would say, is figuring out and defining your author brand. And by brand, a lot of people mean a lot of different things. I could really care. I mean, I think your website, social media, if someone visits those things, they should be able to say, okay, A.R. Torre is a thriller author or something like that. Like they should be able to get that vibe. But what I'm really talking about with your defining your brand is like, what type of books do you write? And in a perfect world, those books would be consistent. The very first Inkers Con that we held in Dallas, there was a representative from one of the major retailers, and I was having lunch with them, and I said, who are the authors that are like killing it right now? Like what are you seeing consistently? And they said the authors that are killing it right now is they're hitting gold with a book, you know, and it might not be like gold, but it might be like, you know, I mean, they have a book that is doing well, better than the other books they've written. And then they write that same type of book over and over and over again. Fresh storylines, you know, different characters, different experiences, but they don't deviate from that recipe for success that worked, whether that is, Scottish Highlander romances with time travel. That is going to be their next 10 books. And every one of those books is performing. We're seeing, perform as well as the first one. And so she was like, if you like, figure out your recipe for success and then stick to it. And I was like, oh yes, that makes sense. And then I proceeded to completely ignore that advice for the next 3 or 4 years before finally it took like 5 people hitting me over the head with it before I said, okay, I need to. And it was really Melanie Harlow, who, by the way, is just a brilliant author. And she really brings a business focus. She's one of our presenters at InkersCon this year. She's also doing a bestseller author Q&A. But she did a Right to Market class a couple of years ago where she talked about how when she gets up in the morning, she said, I write spaghetti. That's what I write. I write, just think of the type of books I write is spaghetti. And she goes, or actually she said cake. I write cake. It tastes good. Customers enjoy it. It's light. It's fluffy. They leave there happy, right? And it has all of my cake is always the same flavor of cake and consistent, right?
Your readers know what to expect.
Right. Readers know what they're not going to be getting dark themes. They're not going to cry when they read my book unless it's like tears of happiness, but they're not going to have stressful moments when reading my book. She goes, sometimes I wake up and I want to write spaghetti. I have a great, cool new idea and I want to write this book that I think is going to be absolutely amazing, but it's spaghetti. It's not cake. She goes, but this is my business and this is my livelihood. And I have spent 6 years or however many years building up an audience that likes cake. And if I show up one day with spaghetti that I spent 6 to 9 months of my time working on and paying for and producing and, releasing, it's not going to do well. And not only that, it's going to hurt their trust in me and the momentum that I've been building until I can write another cake book. So she said, and I took from that, even though there are times where I have like bright, shiny ideas or really exciting things that I want, or I want to move outside of my lane, which A.R. Torre has a very defined lane. I write rich people behaving badly in California, with dead bodies. Like that is what A.R. Torre writes. And A.R. Torre has done so much better than Alessandra as a result, because I am consistent and they know, but I would say if in a perfect world, starting out, you would figure out your lane early on and you would figure out who the audience is for that type of book. You would read a lot of books that are that type of book. You would understand what it is that readers who binge read these books are looking for. And like a prime example of this is Nick. You guys know Nick.
Nick Thacker?
Yes. Nick Thacker also taught at InkersCon a few years ago. And he told a story of how like in one of his early books, he had like laser guns or something, right? And laser guns were not something that this type of audience, which was like military science fiction or something like that, liked, but he didn't know that because he didn't read in that audience. So but then he started reading the reviews and like half the people are complaining about the fact that he had laser guns. So he went and he changed it. But he was like, it was an example of me not knowing the audience that I was writing for, you know what I mean? And just assuming that I could just write the book in my head the way that I had it in my head and it would be successful. And so it's really important if you can figure out what it is that you think you could write 10 books, 20 books in without getting bored, and define, and you're good at that. It matches your strengths of who you are as a writer. Then, set the ground rules for your brand and then stick to it. And it doesn't matter if you get great ideas, write those under another pen name or, write those and put them in a drawer for later, but really focus on building your brand. And your brand, you could have all the consistency externally on your different platforms as possible. But if your books don't deliver on that, then it's going to be a hard uphill, it's going to be a hard road for you. And that was my first 6-7 years. I wrote all romance books. So I thought I was like being consistent, but I had like, a rom-com and then a dark romance and a sports romance and one small town romance. And I was just, in my mind, like, oh, they're all romance, and it doesn't matter. And I had different heat levels.
Just really
define
it in. Okay.
Yeah. Because also it's a saturated market. Readers know what they want. And typically they are reading in a very thin lane themselves, right? Because they can read whatever they want. It's not like back in the first days where it was like, oh, this book's 99 cents. I've never read like that type of book, but for that price point, I'm going to get it. No, nowadays they can get whatever they want very easily. So you got to give them like, what they want.
You've got to deliver. Okay. Well, that was point number 2. Is that correct? So
yes.
Point number 1 was clarity of product. Point number 2 was define your brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
I was just going to say, can we pause for a second and answer a couple questions from the audience? Okay, yeah. Let's do it. First, from our own Lexi Green, she says, as an author with 2 pen names, how is it different balancing 2 different brands? What are the benefits and drawbacks of juggling 2 author brands?
So my opinion on multiple pen names has changed a lot over time. And it used to be like after I saw Melanie Hartlow's, I promised Lexi, I am going to answer your question. I'm just getting there in like a weird, let me give you a little bit of background. When I was like, okay, every like type of book should be, and this is going to contradict a little bit of what I just said, but like a pen name should have all the same type of books, right? And it used to be that the retailer algorithms weren't necessarily smart enough. And if Alessandra Torre wrote a book that was like, a medical thriller, and then Alessandra Torre wrote a book that was a small town romance, and someone read Alessandra Torre's medical thriller, the retailers would also show them the small town romance, right? Nowadays, the retailers are smart enough to be like, even though these books came from the same brand, right? Like I recognize that I'm not going to show this book to this person necessarily, right? Because they are different. So it's not as important that you have multiple pen names, because you can, as long as you have clarity of product, your conversion rates can still be strong, because someone can look at that cover and say, oh, that's not for me, or, oh, that cover is for me. But sometimes it's hard. Authors don't have clarity of product, right? Or the cover itself isn't enough for clarity of products. People click on it, then they read the description, go, oh, this isn't for me, and they click off, and that hurts their conversion rates with the algorithms, right? So having more than one pen name is not like necessarily an easy thing to do. And it does in many ways double your workload, right? Especially if you have multiple websites, multiple newsletters, multiple social media. For me, I have only one social media account. I mean, I have, and I put, just like I did in my name here, I think I did it. It's hidden, but I think I have Alessandra and then AR in parentheses and Tori. I started doing that a lot for all my social media. I still have one website. I mean, I have 2 websites, but it was because it was really easy for me to create a website. I used BookBub's website builder, and it was really easy. And so I just threw up an AR Tori. I just did that like in the last year. But prior to that, I had one website that had everything. And I'm not secretive about my second pen name. But I know some authors, Bonnie Paulson, who's an instructor at InkersCon this year, she has like 15 pen names. Wow. How she does it, I have no idea. But there are also a ton of authors out there that don't have social media, and they might have a website, but they might not. They might just use retailer websites, retailer profiles as theirs, and they grow their brands through ads and through publishing books and people finding them through the algorithms. So what's important is you decide what each pen name will do and make sure that you're okay with that workload. But it's better to publish books rather than not. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. She's a force of nature. If you ever have a conversation with her, though, she accomplishes 15 things in the 5 minutes of the conversation, and you're just left going, okay, so yeah, so she has more energy than me.
And a related question from Ghost Cran, who asks, how do I, as an author, stay with one brand? I like so many different things.
I think it's also part of answering this question would be, why are you writing, right? So because a lot of things I do early on with, not early on with authors, but a lot of times like in my workshops or whatever, it'll be like, I'll ask, why are you writing? And I feel like there's 3 paths, right? There's you write because you love to write, and you want to write books that you want to write, and you want to connect them with readers. And it's not necessarily matter how successful those books are from a monetary standpoint, right? You don't necessarily have to make a certain amount of money from these books, or any money from these books. And I call that hobby. And I don't mean hobby in a bad way, but the beauty of hobby is you can write whatever you want to write. The time you spend can be spent going to the fun things in the author world, right? Like conferences you can go and just have fun and hang out at the bar and make author friends. And if you're going to attend classes, attend craft classes, but you don't have to worry about marketing and advertising and brand and all that stuff. But then there's the path of like, this is a side hustle for me and I need it to make, I love writing. I mean, you should love writing no matter what, but I love writing, but it needs to make a certain amount of money. Maybe that amount of money is enough for your car payment. Maybe it's enough that you can take a vacation once a year, but it just needs to at least cover its expenses and like make something, and that person needs to make different business and focused decisions than the hobby author, right? And then you have someone who is, I am going to do this for a decade or more. I want this to be my full-time job. I need to build a business from this activity. And that person has different focuses, right? And if you're that person, if you are like, I want this to be my full-time career, or I need to make 6 figures or at least 5 figures, or more a year, you need to make decisions not based on what you like or what like speaks to you, but really make decisions from a business mentality and standpoint. And that can be, and that path is the one that is going to miss out on family time, and they're going to be up till 2 a.m. a lot of times, and they're going to have to, sacrifice, a lot of things to try to get that. And that isn't the path that I would necessarily suggest for a lot of people, because writing as the sole source of income puts a lot of pressure on your books. Like it changes the dynamic in a lot of different ways. And it can often be hard to create creative, amazing things under a place of stress. You know what I mean? So, but depending on your path, like it's possible that Ghost, like you have to do the things you don't like. You have to sacrifice the things you like to grow your brand if you have like a very specific trajectory that you are focused on. But even like the middle of the road, like if it's like, oh, I like this, then you can have a brand that does a lot of things. You can be like Ines Johnson. Ines Johnson, the Ines Johnson pen name writes what she wants to write, and it can be all over the place. And then she has a separate pen name that only writes mountain men on a resort that are brother, or on a dude ranch that are brothers. Like that is all that pen name writes. You know what I mean? So you could, like your main pen name can write in a lot of different places. And then you could have a side pen name that is very focused and niche, and then just see how the two do,
Great advice. Very good advice. Okay. Shall we move on to point number 3?
Yes, let's do it. So point number 3 is short and sweet. And that is like, figure out you and your strengths and your weaknesses. And, and then it's kind of like a Venn diagram, right? Like there's everything you like to do, and then there's everything you're good at. And then what is both of those things, right? Because I really like to do certain things like cover design, but I'm not good at it. You know what I mean? So I don't do it. Like I don't spend my limited amount of time that I have doing that. Right. So, and then also like do a Venn diagram of the things you hate to do and the things you're bad at, and where those things intersect. You really like, you need to, as long as those things aren't writing, like if you hate to write and you're bad at it, like you should not be watching us right now. Right. Like go find another area to focus on, like, and to spend your time and money. But those things that intersect, like figure out if there's a way to outsource or eliminate them completely. And there's a lot of times you can just eliminate stuff and it's not going to make any negative effect on your sales and career, right? Like, so the things that if you can narrow down your list, like we as indie authors don't have to do a gazillion things. Like I would rather an author do 3 or 4 things well, only be on one social media platform, right? Create accounts on the other platforms and say on all of them, if you want, thank you for following me. I'll post here when I have a new release, but if you want regular updates, follow me on Instagram or wherever that, and have everything point to that one social
whatever
media
your
platform.
Favorite social media platform
and if you don't like social media or you're not good at it, then don't just say, thank you for following me, subscribe to my newsletter for regular updates. And then the only time you ever have to visit those social media platforms is when you have a release. Post there, update your link on each of them that, your latest book is out now. Purchase it here. That way people can still tag you. They can talk about your books. Someone can click on your name. They can see a link to that book. and they can purchase it. But other than that, you don't have to be on those platforms. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to do all of the things.
But Alessandra, everyone says I have to.
I know.
I have to be everywhere.
But pick what you are going to do, like 2 or 3 things you are going to do, like a newsletter or whatever it is, and then be consistent on that. Like give yourself like clear minimum standards and be consistent on that one thing, whatever that is. And ask yourself, like, the reasons that books fail is either traffic. They don't have enough traffic. No one's getting to those books. 2 is conversion. They're not converting. So when maybe you are sending them traffic, but people are clicking on them, there's not clarity of product, or the book just isn't appealing to any specific target audience, right? It straddles too many genres, or it just doesn't have a hook for a specific audience. Or 3, you might have traffic and conversion, but then you don't have read through, right? They get to the end of the book and there's not a clear like next book for them to go to, either because you're writing a lot of different things and you don't have another book that's similar to that, or there's just no clean transition to another book with back matter or with your catalog. So those are the 3 things that like a successful author has to have success in, those 3 things: traffic, conversion, and read through. Yeah. Okay. That's all I got, Joe.
That was perfect. So I want to just review for everybody in case you, sorry to put you on the spot, Angela. I just saw your comment and it made me giggle. So in case you arrived late, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. The 3 points of focus where authors should be putting their attention right now, according to New York Times bestselling author Alessandra Torre. Number 1, clarity of product. Number 2, define your brand. And number 3, figure out what are your strengths and weaknesses, and then focus down on those strengths and let go of the other stuff that is zapping your energy, your time, and your money.
Yeah. Yeah. Money is time too. So, I mean, time is money. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We've got a few more minutes left. Can we talk about Inkers Con? It's coming right up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if someone hasn't heard, it's right on the corner. If someone hasn't heard of Inkers Con, it's an online conference. Some years we do live. This year we're 100% online. It launches this Saturday. So actually Friday at 6 p.m. we'll release the classes. Yeah. There's the link. And I believe Draft Digital also has a coupon code that you can use to save. You can break your payments into 2 monthly payments, or you can pay in full. Either way, you'll get the access when we kick off. And so we have 24 main presentations. Those are like our headline presentations. Those all release on this Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. But then we have like 2 weeks of live events. So Draft Digital will be doing a live event. We have other great companies in the space like Vellum and Kickstarter, Written Word Media. So a lot of different companies are coming and doing like product demos or live Q&As there. But then we also have just a ton of live workshops and everything from marketing and craft to finance. We have 4 pillars at Inkers Con. So it's business, marketing, advertising, and craft. So we provide
super important
the full length presentations in those 4 pillars. And then the same, like our live events are for that. But we also have like great networking. We have a speed networking party and kickoff party. We also do genre networking breakouts. If you're an Australian author that are looking to connect with other Australian authors, you can organize a roundtable where y'all can meet. Or if you're a women's fiction author and you're looking for other women's fiction, there's just so many opportunities to just organize your own meetup, or you can join one of the, dozens that we have there. And then the other thing that we have during the live events are the best-selling author Q&As. And that's when we'll have people like Devney Perry and Catherine Cowles come in and do a 45-minute live Q&A. Amy Dawes. We have a lot of wide authors and KU authors that are going to be there. And just a great opportunity to get your questions answered and just learn. I learned so much. We had Matt Dinneman year before last. That was before
just completely blowing up right now.
He's really blown up. It's before he blew up. But all he had to tell me was like his book had a cat who was obsessed with Golden Girls. And I was like, I'm sold. Like, I don't have any interest in lit RPG, but that's all I need to know. Like,
didn't he just go like to #1 on Amazon too?
Oh
like,
yeah. I think he's got like 5
nuts.
books in the top 100. And he has a really cool story because he was like, when I talked to him 2 years ago, he was publishing all of his stuff for free on like Royal Roads and, you know, other like on his site. And then he would, after the whole book was out, he would publish it as he wrote it. And when the whole book was out, then he would release it on the retailers. And the same people would go buy it. You know, they would pay a monthly fee or read it for free. And even though they'd read it for free, then they'd buy it. And he was still like, you know, selling just tens of thousands of copies. So it's just, it's a great story. So yeah. I
encourage everybody to like go and check out inkerscon.com and just like start scrolling down the page, because as you scroll down the page, you'll say, oh, and it's got this, and it's got this, and it's got these other things, and it's got this bonus material. And not to mention, what is it? It's like $250 for the entire.
Yeah, it's $250. It'd be $199 for you guys, like with the code. And it's 100% money back guarantee for the first 2 weeks, which is the time of the live events.
So there's the code.
If you're not, I mean, we don't ask questions. Like, just email us and be like, hey, give me my money back. You know, we'll be like, sure. Like, there's no questions asked. We want you to love the event. And all of the recorded content, all of the live events are recorded. All of the presentations are available for 6 years. So
6 years.
You can really watch everything when you're ready for it, you know. So that was really important to us.
Yeah. So, I mean, how many conferences do you guys know about that's got a money back guarantee if you didn't get something out of it and has the content available to you for 6 years? Yeah. That's really cool and very generous with the code. So thank you guys for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you guys for being there. So yeah, I think this is probably I think you've been with us since year 1. So this is our 7th year together with Draft to Digital and InkersCon.
Well, we wouldn't do it if we didn't think it was a valuable conference for indie authors out there. So you guys put together some incredible, the staff, the faculty that you assemble is just top notch. So, you know, got to be associated with all those guys.
Yeah. And it's, you know, like I said, I mean, I have ulterior motives because I get to learn from all of them too. So yeah, I'm always like
selfish.
After, who can I learn from this year? Absolutely.
Right. Well, we're coming to the end here, Alessandra. I'm going to go through the YouTube stuff here and just ask our crowd out here, you guys who are watching, if this was useful to you, can you do us a favor and like the episode and then share it with your author friends? Because that encourages us to reach out to Alessandra next year and invite her back. You can bookmark dddlive.com because at that website, we show you just new sessions that are coming up, what the topic is going to be, and who our guest is going to be. And then finally, if you are just dipping your toes into the self-publishing waters out there, why not sign up for a Draft to Digital account today by going to drafttodigital.com. To our audience out there, for those of you who are with us week in and week out, thank you guys. We so appreciate you. And I've noticed some new faces in the crowd today, probably thanks to Alessandra. So welcome you guys. We hope that you visit us again for the next episodes. And finally, Alessandra, thank you so very much for visiting us again. Yeah, I know your time is just strapped, but thank you. This was so fun.
Fun stuff. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you so much, Jim. Thank you to Draft to Digital team. And thank you guys for everybody who joined live and who's watching the replay. So yeah, best of luck with your writing and I'm excited for your future.
Thanks, everybody. We hope to see you here, same time, same place next week. And Alessandra, if you want to hang out in the green room for a second, grab a snack, I'll see you there in just a minute. We're going to play this quick commercial. Bye-bye.
Hey, authors. Wanted to let you know about something we've got going on that's really cool at bookcovers.com. If you find a cover you love and you want to purchase it, use the coupon code YouTube20, that's YouTube20 at checkout for 20% off. Go to bookcovers.com, browse around, search, find the cover that's perfect for your next book, and use the code YouTube20 at checkout. We'll give you 20% off.